Thanks, Dan. I'm a recovered alcoholic. My name is Pat Rogan. And thanks to the 12 Steps of Alcoholics Anonymous outlined in this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the program of AA, I have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body, and for that I'll be forever grateful. AA hasn't just saved my life, but it's given me a new life, and a new life worth living, for sure. And it's good to be here. Thank the group once again for inviting me. We're at a point in the series where we need to make a decision. And at this point, hopefully we've come to the two conclusions that were just read at the end of How It Works. The first two steps, the ABCs, because the next line is being convinced. And so we need to be convinced that we're powerless and that no human power can restore us to sanity. And the insanity is the powerlessness, is this inability to stay stopped given good reason, given sufficient reason, and the inability to control our drinking or whatever your drug of choice is once we start. And that's really the four times they reiterate, that's what makes me an alcoholic. It's not the people, places, and things. It's not, it's the two questions. When I honestly want to stay stopped, I find that I cannot because of this obsession of the mind. And once I start, I find I can't control the amount I take because of this allergy of the body, this physical craving that develops. Then I am, it says in We Agnostics, I'm probably alcoholic, but you can't stay stopped and you can't control the amount you take, then you're an alcoholic. Have a seat. And that's really what defines us. The being convinced of that, we're convinced that no human power can restore us to sanity, that there's no loved one, there's no child, there's no parent, there's no judge, there's nobody, there's no willpower, which is the strongest weapon I have that can keep me stopped. I suffer from this internal condition that manifests itself in an emotional state, and that emotional barometer gets to a certain point. And I don't care what the consequences are. I need to find relief, and I will pay any price tomorrow for relief today. I don't care. And I'll say that. I don't care. You're going to jail. I don't care. She's leaving you. I don't care. You're going to, they're testing you tomorrow. I don't care. It's just, and I do care once I get to tomorrow. But in the moment, I need relief. And the best definition of obsession that I've heard is that an obsession is an idea that blocks out the truth. That I can only see what alcohol is going to do for me, and I completely block out what it's going to do to me. And I'm fine at the third drink if I didn't suffer from the second part of the illness, which is the physical allergy. I can get the deep breath at the third or fourth drink, but I can't stop there. And I go right through the sweet spot into the run. And that the doctor describes my life. This is repeated over and over and over again. And unless this person can have an entire psychic change, he's not going to say religious experience or spiritual experience because he's a doctor. He's going to say a psychic change. And that brings us to the second step, which is that no human power is going to restore us to sanity. That we have to believe that we need to seek a power greater than human power for a solution, and that's exactly what this book is about, finding that power, and it's funny when you read How It Works. I always think about how inconsistent How It Works is with the rest of the book, with the language of the rest of the book, right? It sounds like How It Works actually sounds like a set of suggestions, doesn't it? I mean, it's that we suggest, these are the steps we suggest. And the original How It Works didn't read like that at all. It was directions. You must, on your knees. That's the original language in the book. And if you're not convinced, reread the book or throw it away. That was the original How It Works. And the rest of the book, the language is, we're going to tell you precisely what we do. We're going to answer those questions specifically. Right? We're going to give you some clear-cut directions. Well, let me tell you exactly what this book is about. It's about finding a power greater than yourself. It's about finding God. And by the way, I always say this: if you're new to the program, the good news is you don't have to believe in anything. The bad news is this is all about God. We only have one solution here. It's a spiritual solution. The good news is you don't have to believe in anything. That's the good. There's no requirements for membership. There's just requirements for recovery. That's all. Anybody can come to AA, but there is some requirements for recovery, and two of them are the first two steps. Right? Usually, the only problem with the third step are the first two. Right? Because if you really believe that you're powerless and you believe that no human power can restore you to sanity, then you don't have a problem making a decision seeking a power greater than human power, especially after what we talked about last week, where this book is giving you permission to choose your own conception of that power. Call it whatever you want. Creative intelligence, spirit of the universe, Jesus Christ, Muhammad, call whatever you want. The power of the fellowship, GOD, group of drunks. Bill opens it up even wider in the 12 and 12. I heard a speaker, I was listening to a speaker online the other day. He said, if your intellectual pride won't let you say God, then say the magic of AA. The magic of AA. It's unexplainable. It's just the magic of AA, right? And last week we were given the formula that will create the magic. And when we do our workshop, when we do the second step, we ask everybody who's taking the second step to stand up and repeat either, I now believe in God, I believe God will restore me to sanity, or I'm willing to believe that God will restore me to sanity. That's all that's required here. We're asking the atheists to go from no to maybe. No to maybe. And we're asking the agnostic to go from maybe to okay, I believe. Because the formula is going to take you where you need to go. The formula of AA is going to take you to the spiritual experience, to the personality change sufficient to recover from alcoholism. My favorite definition, right? And that's what we're going to talk about from here moving forward, by the way. Carl Jung talking to Roland Hazard. You know what? I thought you were crazy. It's way worse than that. You're an alcoholic, right? Way worse than crazy. You're an alcoholic. And I've only seen a few recover. They've had these vital spiritual experiences, and then he tells them how the definition that I love. I think it's the best definition in the book of a spiritual experience / awakening is ideas, emotions, and attitudes that were once the guiding force of these men and women, completely replaced by a whole new set of conceptions, right? And isn't that what we're going to talk about moving forward? My thinking, my actions, my life. Right? That's what we're going to talk about. That's the circuit, right? It goes from a thought to an action to what creates my life. And being convinced of those, we're at step 3. Being convinced. It's a requirement. That's a requirement. You can stay here if you want, but that's a requirement to go forward. What does that mean? It means we decide to turn our will and our life over to the care of God. Well, what does that mean? Well, I decided to turn my thinking and my actions over to the care of God, right? My life is nothing but a sum total of all the actions I've taken up to this point. Every action is born in thought, right? Obviously, my life is a freaking shambles, which means my thinking is flawed. My thinking, my thoughts, my brain is broken, right? And here's the problem with that, is that my thinkings don't turn directly to an action. They go to this limbo place called an emotion first. I go from a thought to an emotion, and that emotion is based on what I think you just said, or how I took what you just said, or your demeanor when you said it, or what I think you meant when you said it. Most of my decisions are based on a lie. It's based on a preconception of what you meant, or what you said, or how you said it, or how I think what you think I meant, thought you meant, and then I take an action. So I need to somehow capture that thought. That's a Paul quote, right, out of Corinthians, I believe. I love Paul, my favorite guy in all of history. If God could save Paul, he could save any of us. If God could love Paul, he could love any of us, right? I mean, that guy was a terror. That guy's a murderer. I wasn't that bad, But Paul says, capture the thought and bring it into obedience. Now, we know what obedience he was referring to, bring it into obedience to someone. But I love that line, capture the thought. If I can capture the thought and bring it into obedience, which means bringing in alignment with spiritual principles, then my next action would be in line with what God's will for me would be. Right? So I'm looking to turn my thoughts over to care. I'm looking for guidance. I'm looking to have someone else to filter my thoughts through. And at the beginning, it's you guys. At the beginning, it's my sponsor. At the beginning, it's the group. But I can't rely on that. We know for a fact when we get to this point that no human power is going to keep us stopped. The group is not going to keep us stopped. We can lean on the group for a while, but that group of drunks is not going to be with me in the middle of the night when my mind's going freaking crazy and my emotional barometer is up to my freaking neck and I can't stand the way I feel for one more freaking second. They're not going to be there. You know, I'm going to have to turn to some power greater than human power at some point. And look, that's why there's no belief requirement here, because there's a natural progression that's going to take place. If we're willing to believe and we make a decision and we take some action, we're going to get results, and then we're going to come to believe. I mean, that's just the way this works. You know, that's why you don't see a lot of people raising their hand saying I'm an atheist. You know, and if they do, they believe in something, or they wouldn't be here. You know, there's some creative intelligence or spirit of the universe, but they may not believe in this particular deity. But they believe in something. They believe that there's some power out there greater than that. And that's all that's required here. And so it's the inconsistency of how it works. Bill reels it right back in the next paragraph and says the first requirement. Doesn't say suggestion. The first requirement. And by the way, Bill conceded the original how it works just to keep the book moving forward. Akron wanted more God, more religion. New York wanted less God, you know, and the fight ensued. Dr. Howard, a psychiatrist friend of the program, intervened and mediated the battle between the two of them. And Bill conceded to the how it works that we see here now. Probably divinely inspired also, you know. But right away, and Bill conceded on one condition, that he would show them the rest of the book, but he would have final decision on the rest of the book. He wasn't going to let them vote on what was going to go in and what wasn't. Yeah. But, I mean, we could say if Akron got their way, would there be 10 million instead of 2 million? You know, or if Akron got their way, would there be 100,000 instead of 2 million? Who the hell knows, right? I don't know. You know, I happen to believe that God had his hand on all of this. You know, and it's all divinely inspired. I think everything is just the way it's supposed to be. You know, reel them in. You know, it's like in the first paragraph when there was a solution. At the very end of that first paragraph, it says they have solved the drink problem. They didn't solve shit, right? They didn't solve anything, right? But he wanted to keep us reading, right? So let's tell them they can do this, you know, and then we'll break the news to them later that you're beyond human aid. You know, that only God is going to solve your problem. And that's basically what he does here. The first requirement is to be convinced that you running your life, life run on self-will, can hardly be a success. That we're always in a collision course with the rest of the world. We put ourselves in conflict spiritually, mentally, and physically with the physical world. Because I'm a taker. Because I'm self-will run riot. They're going to tell me later. Because I'm selfish. That's basically it. You know, and every animal, we get this, humans get this self-will thing, which is made up, by the way, and maybe we'll talk about that in a minute, but it is made up of three basic instincts, the social instinct, the security instinct, and the sex instinct. Every animal on the planet has those instinctual drives. The only difference is they've given us this gift of self-will that we can determine how we're going to satisfy. All the other animals, it's God-driven. It's God-directed. It's instinctively directed, right? They don't really have a conversation on where they're going to live. The lions walk up to a cave. They look at the cave. They move in. There's no discussion on whether the cave is big enough or clean enough or, you know, is there enough space here or no discussion. Just they move in, right? There's no discussion on who's hunting. Right, the female lion, which I kind of pick lions because I kind of like the idea. The guy stays home, the female goes out hunting. Right, the female. There's no discussion on who's going hunting today. Right, the female lion goes out, searches for food, brings the food back to the pride. Right, I mean that's just the deal. Right, sex, no discussion. The female throws up a scent, the male comes running, wham bam, thank you ma'am, over. Right, it's no, I have a headache, not tonight. You know, maybe tomorrow. None of that conversation goes on, right? It's just all God-directed, right? But God gives us this gift where we get to determine how we're going to satisfy those instinctual drives. So I have a plan, right? We all have a plan. And if everybody follows our plan, everything will be great, right? I mean, if you did what I wanted, not only would my life be good, but your life will be good. You're just going to have to trust me in this. So I'm running my life and forcing my will on everybody around me. Mostly family, mostly people that are the closest to me and that I love the most because I think I know what's best for them. I'm running the show. I am God, right? I am. Bill uses that parable, right? The actor who's running the show. I am the actor who's running the show. Well, that's not the freaking actor's job. That's the director's job, right? I'm not supposed to be running the show. I'm supposed to have a director that's dictating how I run the show. And that's the point of that paragraph, that I'm like the actor running the show. That's the point of the third step. And it puts me in conflict with everybody around me because I tell my kids, here's what you need to do. Here's what you're going to do. Look, you're a math whiz. You're going to be an accountant. And this is a true story. My oldest son, you're going to be an accountant. That's your deal. That's going to be your lot. You're a math whiz. I mean, he was like, trigonometry, thermodynamics. I mean, this kid is a whiz when it comes to math, right? And he's just shaking his head up and down. Yeah, Dad. I'm going to be an accountant. I'm going to be an accountant. And we get to the orientation at the University of Florida for accounting, and he looks at me and he says, Dad, I'm going to be an engineer. And he gets up and he walks out. Right? And I'm like, no, you're going to be an accountant. And look, I can either put myself in conflict with him or I can follow his lead. And thank God I didn't get what I wanted. He's been with Lockheed Martin, since he got out of high school. He travels all over the world, teaching guys how to run the software for defense. He's a defense contractor, basically. And, it's the same thing with my son, my youngest son. 17 years old. He's a junior in high school. He wants to join the army. Are you freaking kidding me? We're in Kuwait. We're in Iraq. What are you doing? No, you're not doing that. Listen to me. I'm not putting you at risk, right? Like, no way, And he says, well, here's the deal, Dad. I'll be 18 next year. You can cost me a year if you want to, or you can sign now. But I'm going to sign when I'm 18. If you sign now, I get a free year, and I had to let it go. Not what I wanted. I can put myself in conflict with my son, or I can let him do what he wanted, And now, I look back on that and how selfish is that of me? This kid was chosen. I mean, anybody that's here that has served, you guys are chosen. They're chosen people. Police officers, military, these are chosen people, And I didn't realize that was his gift. My oldest son, his gift was engineering. His gift was mathematics. My youngest son, he wanted to be a cop. I should have known. He was a cop at 3 years old. He was doing covert operation. He had bushes on his head and shit running all over the neighborhood. He knew everything that was going on in the neighborhood at 3, 4, 5 years old. Like I should have known he was going to be a cop. And then later he got out of the military and became an attorney. So, and now he does, pro bono work for the vets that can't get their benefits. I mean, it's just crazy how, if I had had my way, these two would not be living the life that God had chosen for them. But that's my deal. I think I know everything. I think I know what's best for everybody. And the book calls it a delusion that I can rest satisfaction and happiness if I manage the world. I'll be happy if everybody just does what I want to do. If everything just goes my way, I'll be happy. And it's a delusion. It's another form of insanity. It goes on to tell me what my real problem is, and now the conversation is going to switch, and it's going to completely leave behind the mental and physical aspect of the illness, and now it's going to tell me that my real problem is my behavior. My behavior is what's killing me. That my behavior is putting me in conflict with the world, and that emotion is what's causing me the inability to stay stopped. That if I wasn't in conflict all the time, I wouldn't feel like I had to have a drink to fix what was going on inside of me. And that's the paragraph. It's selfishness, self-centered. That we think is the root of our problem, driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, self-pity. We step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. I'm in conflict with everybody. Sometimes they hurt us, but we find that sometime in the past we've made decisions based on self, which later place us in a position to be hurt. This is what's killing me. It's telling me right here. So my troubles are of my own making. They arouse out of myself, and I'm an extreme example of self-run riot. I'm just not I'm an extreme example, but we don't usually think so, do we? Okay? If somebody tells us we're selfish, oh no, I'm a giver. I just want the best for everyone. You know, but the truth is, every time I did something for somebody, I wanted something in return. I felt that I was going to get something back. No matter how giving I looked on the outside, there was something I was going to get back. There was always a condition of my giving. It says, above everything, we must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it kills us. This is what's killing me. If I don't put a drink or a drug in my body, that won't kill me. What's killing me is this conflict, because this prevents me from staying stuck. Bill, later, the conversation is going to change again. He's going to change it to spiritual. He's going to change it to internal, right? Internal. Right now, he's talking about my behavior. He's talking about the external. Only God can solve that problem. No way for me entirely getting rid of self without God's help. And then there's a shout out to the believer. If a moral or philosophical, what's it saying, we agnostics, if a better code of morals or a better philosophy on life was sufficient, you wouldn't be here. You believers wouldn't be here if that was working for you. There's a little shout out right there again, right? Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we couldn't live up to them. Interesting, huh? Interesting. So the conversation has shifted to this self-will conversation, right? The social instinct, the security instinct, and the sex instinct. These three instinctual drives that drive me. This insatiable desire that I have for pleasure through these instinctual, through these gifts that God gave me. And God made them pleasurable because he wanted us to partake in these instinctual drives. They're necessary for our survival. So to get us to do them, he made them pleasurable. It, he, she, whatever, however you want to define that power within yourself. The herd instinct, the social instinct, we have to come together and work together or we won't survive. Right? This social instinct is made up of companionship, wanting to belong or be accepted, this prestige, wanting to be recognized or to be part of something, this self-esteem, what I think of myself, pride, which I thought was a good thing when I got here until I started studying the book, right? It's either an excessive thought of myself or an unjustified, an excessive or unjustified opinion of myself, positive or negative. Right? I either think I'm better than you, or I think I'm a piece of crap. There's no in the middle. There's no I'm just part of. I look down on you, or I look up to you. I want to be you, or I'm better than you. There's just no humility. Right? We're gonna learn that later on. Right? The definition of humility: being okay with exactly who and what I am. Just who I am. This is who I am. I'm okay with it. Right? But at this point in my life, I'm not. And then personal relationships, our relationship with other people, and our ambitions, our goals for acceptance and power and recognition, you know. And society pretty much dictates what it takes to be liked and accepted, to fulfill that social instinct. My parents / society told me what it took, right? And they tell you, actually, I mean, the world, we have billboards that tell you how you're supposed to look to be successful. We have magazines that tell you how you should dress and how you should look to be successful. We have magazines that tell you what you should be driving to be successful, how much money you should be making to be successful. And this is what I'm shooting for. I want to be liked and accepted, so I set a goal. How am I going to get liked and accepted? I work at it. I sacrifice, right? And eventually you let me into the herd. You know, you make me part of, and it feels pretty good. Feels pretty good. Right? It's kind of rewarding. I'm now part of. My buddy Pastor Dave over at CBG talks about I create this fake self to be liked and accepted. Right? I create what I think you want me to be. I create what society wants, what I think society wants me to be. That's what I create. Well, he calls it the first date self. Right? That person that I am on the first date. You know, I create that guy, right? And I'll be anything you want me to be. Whatever you want me to be. Say anything, do anything, I'll be anything, whatever you want me to be. I heard somebody years ago, and somebody said they went and saw Eric Clapton. I said, yeah, me too. I had never seen Eric Clapton, but I wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be part of the conversation, you know. And then the lies start. Oh, when'd you see him? Oh, 1973. Oh, where'd you see him? Oh, Three Rivers Stadium. You know. Then I got to a point where I was telling you what he was wearing, who he was with, you know, who he was dating. You know, he was an alcoholic. You know, I mean, I had this whole story that went along with the whole deal. I told that lie for so long, I believed it. I believed it. I mean, I really was debating whether I saw Eric Clapton or not, you know. And by the way, I finally did see Eric Clapton about 4 years ago. I had witnesses. But Pink Floyd, somebody said they saw Pink Floyd. Yeah, so did I. And then I never saw Pink Floyd. You know what I mean? I want to be liked and accepted, and I'll do anything to be liked and accepted. And what happens? Eventually they find out I'm a fraud. You know, he hasn't seen Eric Clapton. He never saw Pink Floyd. He didn't even live, you know, he was nowhere near there, you know. It's clear that if I'm running my life on self-will, and I'm out there to please you, to be what you want me to be, that eventually I'm going to end up in conflict with you, because I am going to do things outside of what God's will is for me to get liked and accepted, whether it be in the workplace, whether I'm going to lie about my qualifications, whether I'm going to put you down, whether I'm going to go to the boss and say so-and-so's not doing their work so I can get a promotion, however that works out, whatever I can do to satisfy my instinctual drive, this desire for more. There never seems to be enough. As soon as I satisfy the goal, I want more. As soon as I satisfy the goal, I want more. Especially in the security instinct. I mean, the material, made up of the material, money, you know, buildings, property, clothing, watches, you know, whatever it is, you know, that's going to make you like and accept me. Emotional security, right? The need to rely on somebody else, or the need to have somebody depend on me, right? And then my ambitions for that, you know, what I want in my future. I was convinced, you know, that if I got the right job, I would get the right car, and then I would find the right girl. That was like the progression of that I thought my life was going to be. And then we would get a nice house, and then we would live happily ever after. I mean, isn't that what society tells us is success? I mean, isn't that what it's all about, right? Getting the right education so that I can get the right job, so I make enough money to buy the house and the car, and then get the girl, and then have the children and live happily ever after. I mean, society tells me that's what success looks like. At least that's what I was taught. So I buy my first new car. It's a 1988 Ford, fully loaded Ford Tempo. You know, I know the salespeople at the Ford dealer in Del Rey said, "See this guy walking across the lot? We're going to get rid of that Tempo tonight," right? And they sold me this fully loaded Ford Tempo, right? First new car ever. I was never so happy in my life. I couldn't wait to show my friends this freaking car. I'm playing with the power windows, the seat, you know, I'm the air conditioning. I got a freaking car. I mean, this is heaven. This is freaking heaven. Doesn't get any better than this. I pull up to my buddy's house. He looks at it, he said, "Who the F buys a freaking fully loaded Ford Tempo?" Right? And I said, "I like the car for half an hour. A half an hour. I got to get rid of this thing." He says, "Oh, it's an old people's car. It's an old man's car." It's always been like that. No matter what car I had, it wasn't good enough. I saw the guys back in the 70s with the hot rods getting the girls. That's what I need. I need that hot rod. My 62 Chevy was not going to get it. It was not going to cut it. I got to get something with wide cars, pipes, headers. You know, that gets the girls. Right? That didn't get the girls, so I had to get another car. That one didn't get the car, so I had to get another car. It was never the right car. Setting goals, saving money, so I can get the car, so I can get the girl. And I don't get the girl with the car, so I just keep repeating that thing over and over again. Pretty soon I'm not getting the money fast enough, I'm not getting the car fast enough. I start lying, cheating, stealing to get the money and get the car that I want. And it puts me in conflict with everybody and everything. Any life run on me running the show is going to be a failure. The sex instinct, obviously, God-given, need to procreate. By the way, the security instinct, we don't build shelter, we can't survive, right? I mean, the security instinct is necessary for our survival. Sex instinct necessary to procreate. God made it pleasurable so we would do it. Who the hell knew it was going to be that pleasurable, though? Hell, things like the sooner I'm done, I want to do it again. You know? And pretty soon, I'm not getting it enough. I mean, what the hell's going on here? So I find myself doing it the wrong people at the wrong time. There's this insatiable desire to satisfy that instinct. That's all I can think about is satisfying that instinct. I was convinced from 13 years old that if I could just get a car, I'd get the girl and I'd get laid, and that's all I wanted out of life. That's all I wanted out of life. If I could just satisfy that sex instinct, everything will be good. I have destroyed beautiful relationships for brief moments of pleasure. And that's sad when I look back at it. I always refer to the 11th step where it says, we don't look back with morbid reflection, but damn it, it's hard not to look back without regret. It's just all about me, all about more, the disease of more, taking the instinctual drives beyond what God intended them to be. This insatiable desire that I have for more, for pleasure, just more. Why? What the hell is going on there? What is it that's going on the inside that I think the freaking outside is going to fix? Right? What is it why am I piling all this outside stuff on the inside thinking that's going to fix it? And it does momentarily, and that's why I start the process again, right? We buy the new car and it feels good for what? A week? And somebody dings it with the door or something? Right? And then I need another car. Relationship's great for what? A month? And you find out, I didn't know she snored like that. Jesus, my God, that's noisy. Holy crap, what's going on with that? Oh, my, look at the, she eats with her mouth up. What the heck is going on here? All this disease of more. The disease of more. And how many times have we become friends with somebody and then we start taking their inventory? Why do they act like that? Why do they say that? Why do they do that? They shouldn't do that. Shouldn't say that. Why can't they be like this? And then we move on. God intended these instinctual drives to be here. I took them here. There's the measure of the defects of character. There's the measure of the defects of character. Somehow I got to bring these instinctual drives back and keep them where God intended them to be. That is the nature of the wrong, right? Because being put in conflict with everybody is creating these resentments. Incorrect thinking. It's creating fear. Incorrect feelings, incorrect believing, if you will. And it's creating harms or hurts to other people. Guilt, remorse, shame. Right? These are what Bill calls the spiritual sickness that I'm suffering from. This anger and resentment, this fear, this guilt, remorse, and shame from the things that I've done to hurt other people. The third step isn't the prayer. It's at the bottom of page 62. The prayer validates the position, but this is the new position. We have to have God's help. Well, this is the how and why of it. First of all, that we had to quit playing God. Didn't work. Next, we decided hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director, not our suggester, as it sounds like in how it works. God is going to be our director. He's the principal. We are the agent. He's the father. We are the children. That's the new position. That's the third step position. I'm not capable of that. I am not capable of that. I've made a decision to seek that. I better think about, what does it say after the third step prayer? We thought, well, before taking this step, because this is the new position. This is the new position. I'm not running a show anymore. My behavior has to be in line with spiritual principles, or I'm not going to be able to stay stopped. That's pretty much what it's telling me right now. God's spiritual principles are going to direct my life from here on in. I'm not running the show anymore. And this next paragraph in the book blew me away. and I want to share it with you because I wasn't getting this. It says, when we took a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. A lot of remarkable things didn't follow for me. I thought they were going to. They didn't. I got on my knees. I did the prayer. I got up. I'm still sick. I'm still sick. We had a new employer, being all-powerful, provided what we needed. We kept close to him. We get less and less into ourselves and our plans and designs, and we were interested in what we could contribute to life. Felt new power flow. We enjoyed peace of mind. We discovered we could face life successfully. We become conscious of His presence. We begin to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and hereafter. We're reborn. Didn't get it. I wasn't reborn. I wasn't reborn. You ever sit in a meeting and you you puke in the meeting, you got all this, you got this stuff going on, and you're at an open discussion meeting, an open discussion meeting, and you just want to puke on the group, you know what I mean? Like your life is falling apart. I came in here, I'm going through a divorce, a restraining order, assault and battery charges, the business is failing. My life is not good. I'm not reborn, right? So I puke on the group, and somebody says this. I know you've been into one of these meetings. You need to turn that over. Right? You've been there, right? You need to turn it. No, I need an attorney. Does anybody know a good attorney? How about a job? Anybody got a job for me? Because I'm convinced that I'm still convinced that if I can get her to drop the charges, if I can get her to let me back in the house, if I can regain custody of my son, if I can somehow turn this business around, then I'm going to be okay. I don't know any better. My base nature is still there. I'm still selfish and self-centered. I'm still driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion. I'm self-seeker. I'm full of self-pity. I'm still not there. And I was misinformed. People were telling me that if you're not getting the step you're working on, you should go back to the one before it. Don't listen to that shit. That's not true. It's wrong. It's bad information. We hear take it or leave. Take what you want and leave it. Take what you want and leave the rest in the fellowship. That only pertains to the fellowship, not the book. Not the book. The program is precise, specific, exact, clear cut. The fellowship's got a bunch of bullshit opinions out there at times. Just don't pick up the first one. If that was true, I wouldn't be here. I would have got the information in the doctor's opinion, and I'd say, goodbye, I'll see you later, I got it. Don't pick up the first drink. I'm still here because I can't not pick up the first drink. First one gets you drunk. No, it didn't. It was the 10th one that got me drunk. I get the analogy, but that's not going to help me stay stopped. I'm here. I'm on my knees. I did the prayer. God, I offer myself to thee. Fill with me. Do with me as your will. Remove me the bondage of me. I better do your will. Take away my difficulties, please. And I'm not feeling it. I'm just not feeling it. So I'm sitting in a meeting. The Fifth Chapter Club had moved. Probably Paul remembers this, maybe Al. The Fifth Chapter Club had moved from Federal Highway to Lauderdale Lakes. And that's when we opened up the bottom line. But I was over at the Lauderdale Lakes version, and Jim B was doing a big book study. And Jim B did a third step study. And I went up to Jim B. I'm ready to drink. I'm like, the emotional barometer's up here. I'm doing all this praying, and she's still not dropping the charges. What the hell is this shit? Ain't working. I'm still with my mom's house. I'm still in the bedroom of my mother's house. I don't have my house back. And I went up there and I shared this with Jim. And Jim says, Pat, you made a decision. Nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. You haven't changed. All you did was make a decision to seek the solution. We are at step 3. We haven't done step 3. We are at step 3. He said, you know how you complete step 3? You take some freaking action. Right? I can tell you that I've made a decision to go see my son in Jacksonville all day long, but I'm still here in Coral Springs. I made a decision, just haven't left, just haven't done anything to complete the decision. I got to get in the car and drive to Jacksonville. to complete the decision. Jim says, you've got to do 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 to complete the decision. That's the program of action. You have come to 2 conclusions and you've made a decision. You've done no work. No work. Which explains why when I called my ex-wife and told her that I found out I'm an alcoholic, everything's going to be good now, she said, nope, you're an asshole. And she hung up the phone. And she was correct, by the way. I bounced that off my sponsor. He said, yeah, she's accurate. It's time to do some work. If we want to recover, it's time to do some work. That's the deal. You know, and that's what we're going to talk about now, the program of action to bring about the completion of step 3. And step 10, I'm able to capture the thought, right? We talk about restraint. It's only until step 10 am I able to say, hold on a second. Let me get back to you on that. Instead of my thought going right to an emotion into an action, which is directed by me, right? Can I call you back? Can I call you back? Like, I'm going to bounce this off my sponsor real quick, right? You know, pause, right? Go back to Paul, capture the thought, bring it into obedience, right? Bring it obedience to God. And then let's take some action. And the rest of this is the deal. It talks about, you know, the 3rd step prayer, validating this new position. God, help me take this new position. Now, Pat needs to take some action. And that's why, you know, the language of the book is next. Not next month, next year, 6 months from now, not next. No, wait till you get step 3 and move on. No, it's next, now, right? At once, right? Little permanent effect unless at once, followed by some rigorous action. And I'm going to end with this. On the top of 64, it tells us our liquor was but a symptom. Liquor is not what's killing me. I'm killing me. My behavior is killing me. That's what's killing me. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. I need to find out if what you're telling me is true. You're telling me I'm selfish, I'm self-centered, I'm driven by 100 forms of fear and self-pity and self-delusion. Is that true? Well, the only way I'm going to find out if that's true or not is the inventory. Right? And I got challenged. Well, see if it's true, Pat. If you don't believe it, see if it's true. And that's what Jim B said. Put pen to paper. Put pen to paper. And then you'll start to complete the 3rd step decision. And next week we'll talk about that. Thanks for letting me be here tonight. Appreciate it.